We're talking about chickens.
I just drew this chicken.
Great. Thanks for sharing that. Why did the chicken go to the gym to work out its pecs?
All right, I'm out of here.
All right, that's the show. Cue the music.
I'm out.
We're done.
We're done. We didn't even get it. We didn't even start, and we're like, we're done.
See you next week, KO.
See you next week. Heyo.
Nathan is canceled.
You're listening to the Janchi Show, hosted by 3 Korean American adoptees diving headfirst into what it means to be adopted, Korean, American, and more. And now, here's your hosts, Nathan, Patrick, and KJ.
Hey, everybody. Welcome to the Janchi Show, or welcome back to the Janchi Show. If you're a returning listener, appreciate you, love you. Thank you for coming back. My name is Patrick Armstrong. I am here with my fellow co-hosts, Nathan Nowak and KJ Relke. Fellas, how are you doing on this fine Wednesday morning?
Great. Love you too.
Oh, I see what you did there. I was like, what? What are you talking about? But I get it. It's Wednesday morning if you're listening to it live in the Western Hemisphere's time zones.
Oh, yeah, that's a good point.
Yeah, shout out to all you non-Western Hemisphere folks who are
Sorry
like,
for being hemispherist.
We're not hemispheres on the show.
I guess. Spherist would probably be better.
No, it's hemispheres.
Hemiist?
What? You're like, oh, but other people who live on square planets or cube planets, we hate you.
Oh, see? I can never, you can't get it right. I'm canceled now.
Cube
all right.
planets.
All the ways.
Oh my gosh.
I'm good.
It hurts my brain thinking
You're
about
good?
that.
Good.
Living on the Allspark.
Sam, put the cube
Or a
inside
board
my
ship.
chest.
You're impressing me with some of your impressions tonight.
Hey, thanks.
Today.
Yeah, it's been weeks since you heard my last impression.
It's been a long time.
Impressive impressions.
Those are impressive, and that was impressive impressions with KJ Relke. And this is a Janchi Show. We celebrate and support each other here. Nathan, why do we celebrate and support each other?
Because we are kind people.
That's a great answer.
That's a great answer.
And
Yeah.
in relation to the show,
No other reason.
yeah,
The world needs more kindness.
that's true. That's true. Okay. Well, with that being answered, what does Janchi mean for any of those new listeners who might be joining us for the first time?
Yes, Janchi means to feast, and we feast and celebrate on our adoption stories and voices and other shared identities and experiences and how we're developing through all of that as well. And then we have a guests occasionally and snack and food. So we feast on the snack and food at the end. And yes, you're right. I always have such a jumbled description of how I'm explaining this, but
We
do
do
for 120 episodes. I'd have
we
like
do
down
feast
as a
on
script.
our adoption stories. I like that description of it.
Sometimes I
We
imagine
feast on our adoption stories.
I know that
agree.
like for a while we've been like it sounds like you're just like padding for time, but this time I imagined you were like walking down a grocery aisle and be like, oh, and this sounds good. I'm gonna put that in my cart. And oh, here's another thing. I'm gonna put that in my
You
cart.
went in with no list, and you're just
And you're
you're just
like,
shopping.
I think we
fill
could
in the
use this
basket.
and yeah.
Fill the basket
That's
up.
true.
Yeah. But
That
you've
is
grabbed
true.
the largest cart because that's all that's available. All the small carts are taken. No
That's
basket.
why I would never be
Allison
good
was like, I sent you in
live.
to get one thing, and you came back with $100. This isn't even Target.
Yeah, how did you get over there?
You should see me at a buffet.
Oh, goodness.
All
No,
right.
that's true. Yeah, you're a sampler.
Yeah, go a little
Yeah.
crazy.
Yeah.
Don't know where to
You
begin.
gotta new listeners. You
Overwhelming.
gotta go back a few episodes to hear about the buffet.
Find the one where he talks
Yeah.
about the
Long
buffet
time
in
ago.
Las Vegas.
Yes. Oh, I miss those.
Oh, what are we talking about today? Speaking of,
Well, we didn't plan it, but you know what? I did. I actually want to kick this off with a voicemail. I don't think I told either of you that we have a voicemail, but
you did not.
we do. Yeah, we have a new caller, so I'm just gonna throw it to that right now.
That's a new caller.
Hi, this is Abby and Ellie calling from UT Southwestern. I wanted to confirm your appointment tomorrow at 8 o'clock. Please come to 2201 Inwood Road on the second floor tomorrow, February the 15th at 8 a.m. Thank you.
And please fast 4 hours prior. Thank you.
Okay, I have many questions. The first one is, were those two people working on the same phone call?
I think so. Yeah,
Wow.
freaking incredible.
All right, running it all the way
email
back.
come in.
I have so
and I
many
was
questions.
just like,
I have so many questions. Was that for a Southwest flight?
no,
That
that
we
was
were
UT
appointment-
Southwestern.
Yeah, it sounded
Oh,
like
a
a
college.
medical appointment.
Yeah, it sounded like someone was like
Follow-up.
going in for blood work
Yeah.
and just
Wrong
calling
number.
in to
See, I
just-
was already way off. I was going into
Yeah.
airport mode. It was like, what's happening at Southwest? Okay. Very
incredible.
interesting. That was on our voicemail inbox.
Wow.
Or is
Yeah,
that on
so-
your personal one?
No. I saw the email come in. And I was like, "Oh, hey, new email or new voicemail. That's exciting." And then,
Oh, man.
then I went and listened to it. I was like, "Abby and Ellie. Who is Abby and Ellie?" And then, calling to confirm your appointment.
I like that they didn't give away any identifying information, so we don't have to bleep anything out.
Yeah,
Other than first names.
yeah. No, it was them. It was just them calling. Like, hey, this is Abby and
somebody.
Ellie.
That is absolutely hilarious.
Well, I
Incredible.
hope that person who they were intended to call got
Remembered
the
their
message
appointment.
and got
and
to their
fasted
appointment.
for 4 hours
And
before their
fasted.
appointment. So,
Yep.
Incredible.
Yep. So, anyways, if you wanna leave a voicemail like
That's the
that,
show.
you can call into 972-677-8867. Honestly, if you actually listen to the show and just leaves a voicemail like that, that'd be pretty great. So
Mhm.
We'll
yeah,
play it.
those-
Any
We'll
questions?
play it. We'll play
Unless you don't
anything.
want us to.
Unless you, yeah.
You can
We-
leave
we
anonymous.
do
You
consent.
don't have to put your name in it. That's fine.
Yeah.
But-
So, anyways, sorry for the practical joke.
All the
today,
new listeners have since left us.
They were just like, what are we,
They're no longer
what are we
listening.
doing? I don't get it. Is this what I do?
hey, it took us 120 episodes to get the wrong number. So
Well, not
Well,
really.
I was
We haven't had
like
phone.
60.
I would
40?
say, yeah, we have.
I don't know how many episodes we had the phone number.
I'm gonna say
40.
40. At least
I'm going to
20.
say back third.
That's
the
still
back
pretty great.
third.
120 episodes, though, is a lot. Like, I feel
Yeah.
like we're moving along. We've
Yeah.
even taken a couple small breaks now,
Mm-hmm.
here and there.
Indeed. Yep. Learning to pace ourselves. So, okay, this is something that I found interesting, and it ties in with a secondary topic. But we've been on this journey. I think the last time we did a solo, we talked about safe spaces and what they were for us growing up and those things. But also part of what this show has been for us has been examining who we are in relation to maybe broader Asian American spaces, adoptee spaces, and those kinds of things. And Patrick, I think it was you that at one point you were like, I feel like for every new thing I have to learn, I also then have to unlearn like 7 things or something like that, just to like reset the slate, do that kind of stuff. So I was curious, what have you unlearned? Has there been any like moment in your kind of recentish history where you're like, oh man, you know what? I used to respond this way, but now I think I respond another way, or something like that.
Dang, you put me on the spot with this question. And I feel like it's a cop-out excuse answer to say that I've unlearned so much. I can't even think of one thing that I've unlearned. Let's see. What have I unlearned recently-ish? I don't know. I guess the thing that always comes to the top of my mind is kind of one of the first things that I unlearned, which was really like, I guess, like foundational anti-blackness. I don't know really how to describe it other than this kind of anecdote is that so you go to so I grew up in a very small, predominantly white, super conservative town. And if you were to go to Chicago or a place that was predominantly black or had a large predominantly black community, it would be like, okay, if you see a black person, you lock your doors because it was just like, it was instant trouble.
Yeah,
Like that
the
just kind of
neighborhood
like
is
really
unsafe,
just
quote
like
unquote.
basic racism. But,
Yeah.
like for whatever reason, like I just internalized all of that for a really long time. And I say that only because I recently shared this with someone else, and that I think that's why it's top of mind. But I don't know. When I think about my unlearning journey, I think it really starts there. Is unlearning a lot of like prejudices. I think just like language, the proper language use, like for the disabled community or for like the indigenous community, and unlearning thinking that just because I've read something that I now know that I'm using it the right way and learning to be mindful and respectful of each person's individual, how they identify, how the language they like to use, et cetera, and knowing that it's not always a blanket thing. Just like in the adoptee community or the Asian American community, we don't want to just be blanket termed like that. So I guess that, to answer your question, would probably be it. Starting at that foundation, and I guess that would be really kind of language like that recently.
Yeah. Nathan, are you still pondering?
Yeah, well, I'm pondering on how to say it, I guess, because I don't want to. I don't know. I don't want to be offensive, or
I'm just kidding.
Like, I don't want to get the terminology wrong. But one of the things that I saw even recently, somebody post about being thankful to our parents for being adopted, and how to use the terminology differently, and how to, because I mean, I in my mind I'm thinking, yeah, I mean, I am grateful for my parents and how they raised me. I love my parents, and I love the way that they gave me opportunities and cared for me and things like that. But how do I say it in a way that's not about more along the lines of just they're my parents and they raised me, and not about feeling
like
that I owe them something because they adopted me in that way. So that is a terminology that I'm still actually trying to unlearn and trying to learn properly on how to say. I don't know. Have you guys come across on ways of, I guess, expressing that without, incorrectly, expressing it, I guess.
Yeah, I know what you mean. I think for me, it's just like you said, it's about like expressing my personal opinion. And in moments where my personal opinion does happen to align with a broader narrative that I feel like needs to be de-monolithed, I will then also say in the same breath, like, and I know this isn't the experience for everyone. Like, you know what I mean? And I think that that's the thing that, like, similarly to you, is like the thing that I'm working on is to be specific when I can be. And I noticed this in Lunar New Year celebrations, like me and two other Koreans got together to celebrate Seollal. Like, it was like specifically 3 Koreans celebrate Seollal. Like, that's the thing that we were doing. We weren't like incorporating like a bunch of other cultures' Lunar New Year celebrations. It was specifically Koreans. So like, why didn't I just say like Happy Seollal? Like, you know what I mean? Like, why did I say like, oh, we got together to celebrate Seollal? Like, I could have been better in being specific, and in the specificity, like, there, I think, allows more grace and more nuance and those kinds of things, right? So I think, like, in the same token, being like, yeah, if I want to express like gratitude to my parents for my adoption or how I was raised or whatever, then I can do that. And if it's in a public space where I feel like both narratives need to be represented because one is vastly underrepresented, then I think the thing for me is like, either I choose a different audience or add the caveat to what I'm saying, so that part of my time is spent amplifying more than just one story and more than just one point of view.
Yeah, I agree. I think that adding that caveat is really important. Just being clear and being as specific as possible in those situations. And I would say I do the same thing. It's more like, it's like I'll say that I'm grateful to my parents for certain stuff, but I wouldn't say my adoption is something that I'm grateful for. Like, I have deep love for my family and my parents, which is my experience with my family specifically. I know many people who do not have that same relationship with their adoptive family. But especially if they're going on this journey, learning what I've learned about the system of adoption, about how we talk about adoption, and how, like KJ said, certain narratives are vastly overrepresented within that narrative. To me, it's like I'm not grateful to have been a product of that system. Or for whatever roles anybody plays within it. You can be
grateful to your family and grateful for, but you also not grateful for your adoption.
Right. Exactly. Yeah, I'm grateful to have been raised in a kind and loving home. And I say that part of my gratitude comes from knowing other stories within the community where that did not happen. So like that is where gratitude comes in. But this specific feel, or like the relationship with gratitude, I think is really complex for people within our community.
Yeah.
Like it's just an interesting thing.
Yeah. And specifically the post that I saw was coming from other adoptive family or other family members in the adoptive family, saying things like you should be grateful and you should appreciate being adopted and things like that. And that language is harmful and definitely not, luckily for me, no one has said that to me, but I can just, I feel, for the people that did have to experience that. And that's definitely not what anybody should say to an adoptee.
Well, that's language that we have to unlearn ourselves. Like that's why I guess that's one of the examples I could use for language that I'm unlearning. Is just like that was one of the things I had to unlearn was to stop saying that I'm grateful for this or that because of the adoption. Like, well, yeah, I'm grateful to be adopted. It's like you say that, but you don't understand the context behind it. There's no deeper thought to it other than this is what I've always been told and how I've always been. And like, yeah, I'm grateful for certain aspects of it, but adoption as a whole, not so much.
Right. Well, and it's really common too. And like sometimes like with enough practice, we do elevate those things. Like, you can say like, oh man, I'm so angry right now. And you can be like, are you angry or are you just hungry? And be like, oh, you know what? I am just hungry.
Right.
You know what I mean? But like that level of specificity, that level of specificity actually like can clue you into some things, being so you'd be like maybe younger, you'd be like, yeah, I'm grateful that I'm adopted, but actually what you're saying is, no, I'm grateful for this life that I have, but I'm not grateful for how it started. Like how it started was with the separation of a family, like with the tearing apart of a family unit for who knows however many reasons, like there's like so many things that it and that's true of every adoption. And so then it's like, well, even if you're thankful for like the life that you have, you don't have to be thankful for like the destruction of your family to also feel thankful for, those kinds of things, which I think is tough. And I also, as I say it, I generally don't like the language of thankfulness. I much prefer the word gratitude versus thankful. And I don't know what it is about those words that like feel like one feels like appropriate and one feels very heavy-handed and what's the term? Not simplistic, but like reductionist in some way. Like it actually like it divides the narrative and reduces it into something that's like very cheap, I guess.
Yeah. Well, it kind of like thankful, I feel like, well, even in grateful too, kind of splits it. It feels like almost binary in a way. So it's like you're grateful or you're ungrateful. You're like, you're thankful or you're not thankful, I guess. Unthankful. Thankless. I don't think that's a word. Thankless? Thankless?
Yeah.
Is that what
that's
it is?
A word.
Thankless.
Okay.
Thankless. Yeah.
Well, that exists.
Yeah. I mean, also it has to do with that it was a transaction too. And I don't think, thankful is a good word to be used in a situation as a, some sort of commodity or something like that. I mean, thank you for giving me a good, a nice
service,
handshake or service or things like that. Yeah,
a nice handshake.
I don't know.
Yeah.
When you say, usually when you say thank you, you shake somebody's hand.
That's
right.
True. Thank you for your nice
transaction has been done. Yeah. Or something like that. That just seems wrong in a case of an adoption and in the case of even being raised by, a parent, because that's, a parent's job. They should be.
You'd much rather show my gratitude to you, sir.
Yeah, it's interesting. I think the other thing, so on to that point of the binary of being like grateful or ungrateful, to your point, KJ, it is very divisive and it sits and divides the community, and it can, because it will cause the schism where people in the community feel like you have to also be like you have to be grateful, or on the other side there is no, you have to be not grateful. Why don't you see it the way I see it? Like we get pulled apart into these two. So like we're trying to fight one narrative, we get split into two, and it almost does just as much harm, I think, or it can, simply because I don't know, there's like no progress being made, I guess. Is it like an echo chamber-ish in a way, even though we're yelling from two different sides, I guess? I don't know. I just think it's really interesting, and it like makes people feel like they have to pick sides in the community. I feel like that's harmful to a lot of us.
I think that's one of those like one of the difficult things too. And this is like adjacent to what I kind of want to talk about is like the idea of myth making and the stories that really do the myth making for us. Because and we've touched on it briefly with a previous guest, but just like the stories of our adoption are mythology, right? Like they are, and specifically like our mythology, our family's mythology, like for lack of a better term, like they're our creation story, you know, and they're the stories that give us meaning. They're the stories that help us navigate the world. And so when that breaks, when you have your apocalypse and that just like flips your creation story on its head, then you start scrabbling for language. And when you scrabble for language, like many of us, you know, on Instagram or on social media, you'll start grabbing at hashtags, which I think like it's telling to me that like some people find our show through hashtags. Obviously, that's how we like why we use them. But when you follow hashtags, you don't necessarily get the sense of a full person. You just kind of get their arguments, and then I think it does become an echo chamber, and you don't have the ability to understand like what the broader conversation is. You just see like you should be pro adoption and like be thankful and like be proud about that and whatever. And then another person's like, no, you definitely shouldn't do that. You know, like, and that's where like that, like the seedy underbelly of marketing and, you know, like,
well,
there's
like no nuance.
Like, yeah, exactly. Well, it's just like, even if there is, like when you first enter into it, you're entering in through a hashtag. You're not necessarily entering through like a profile. You're not necessarily entering in through like downing like tens of podcasts at once, or maybe you are, but it's like 10 different you know, like, so you don't like have a journey. You're just scrabbling for language because suddenly what you thought of was like in the beginning, you're just like, oh, I can't even use that anymore. So how do I begin? Like, I realize that, you know, like my story is missing whole chunks and I don't have any language. So how can I begin to find that, you know? And then that's when I think you get into, even if somebody were to find our show, and I think that we try really hard to give nuance, if they were to stumble on our show, they'd be like, what, you know, and could find that they lean one way or the other. True. Even though that's not our intention, because like we are still ourselves and we will have our own point of view, and then how they choose to navigate from there, you know, can affect how they integrate into the community or don't integrate into the community because of the particular energy, whatever that they get from those social media posts and other things. So
yeah, I think the hashtags are like clickbait. Like it's just, you
know, like they're so helpful, but then it's like, oh man, you have
to get the more context after, because it could be the whole hashtag could be, like you said, the negative or the positive of what you're actually trying to get to. Whoever is explaining the rest of the story. So yeah, it's social media is very interesting with that.
Do you know what hashtags they're finding us through? Are we tracking that in any measure?
No, I mean, I just know like
Beastie
Jonah
Boys.
found us.
Beastie Boys, yeah.
Jonah found us for using hashtag very Asian, you know.
Oh yeah.
And
interesting.
Like, so like, yeah, but I think that there is like to differing degrees. And this is why I really like the language of that apocalypse, is like when you lose the language, when you lose your mythology or the mythology of like how you came to be in, you know, your family, whatever, it gets like completely upended and you're scrabbling for language, then all you have are these like you essentially begin doom scrolling, trying to figure out, is there anyone like me? What do I do here? How do I, you know, and so you search hashtag adoptee, but actually realistically, probably the first thing you're gonna look up is hashtag adopted. Then you find a bunch of dog posts and you find a bunch of like Christian savior posts and you find, you know, like all those things. You're like, what? This isn't what I want. And then hopefully maybe you stumble on like maybe some ethnic hashtag, you know, if it's very Asian or Black Lives Matter or whatever that is, like, you know, whatever the thing that you realize, however your apocalypse unfolds and gives you a new way to think about it, right? And then you're like, oh man, and yeah, so it's tough, and you try to find like whether it's a Facebook group or whatever, and you just jump into the middle of a conversation, and without like a guide, then you're just like, I just jumped into the deep end and I forgot how to swim. So this is less than ideal.
Yeah, that's a great point, because I feel like that's really how when I had my apocalypse, that's kind of what happened. Is I just kind of doom scrolled all through the internet, just like in conversations of like, here's what you should look at, or like, what does it mean to be adopted, or like Korean American this, and just trying to like find anything and everything. And then because like my personality, especially at that time, was very like not only reactive but like latching, like would latch on to something very quickly. Like that's how I got involved in like the first initial like adoptee things that I was doing, and like in hindsight might not have went down that specific path at that time. I think it was helpful in the long run because I think it gave me it showed me that kind of dual realities of like what adoptees think, or that happens in our community very often. Excuse me, I don't know what the heck's going on with my throat, but it was the Pop Rocks from last week. Jeez, still getting me.
It is
those Pop
healthy.
Rocks. Anyways, it's just like it was just like trying to find somebody, and then like you said, you know, if you don't have a guide, like I thought I had a guide at that point, but I don't really think that I did, and it was really through like us coming together, like and building the community through the show that I found like what I think I was probably looking for and searching for all of that time. But I'm scrambling for the language, scrambling for just grasping at straws, anything that could possibly
you
help
feel
me.
like you're drowning.
Exactly. Anything that could help me inform myself and like,
just 1 minute, please, dear God.
Exactly. Cause cause it wasn't almost like, I mean, it was like drowning, but it was almost like you're like slipping, not even falling, but slipping down a slope. And like, you can kind of like turn and whatever, you can kind of maneuver, but you're always going down, and then you're just waiting for like one ledge or one branch to like get, and just like you said, stabilize yourself. And yeah, I guess that's a long way for me to say that the show kind of did that. But yeah, like I just like the way that you talked about it, like doom scrolling out of the apocalypse. Like that's exactly what I did. It was just like, oh, this and this and this.
Do we need to hashtag adoptee apocalypse now more?
No one's using that language.
Yet.
I'm the only person using it.
Yeah.
You used it? Okay.
I use it a lot, to be honest. I use it a lot.
Hashtag it?
I do not hashtag it. There is no hashtag. But see, that's the thing. I'm like not using hashtags as much anymore.
Yeah.
Probably to your point, though. Probably to your point, to be honest.
It's one of those things, though. It's like, you know, like you just put it out there, you tag your stuff with it because you just hope that maybe someone will stumble across your post and you believe in what you're doing. You know what I mean? And it's like, on the one hand, like you do want to be one of the voices amongst the masses. And on the other hand, like you got to be like, so hopefully like elevated out of that or like outside of that some way so that you can provide like a gentle way in, or at least that's what we try to do on the show. You know, and I think that's also partially why like we keep our social media pretty light. We keep, besides the fact that we're very lazy and don't do good social media, but like for me at least, it's a pretty intentional, like we could probably write more, we could probably post more, whatever, but we're not going to do like, we're going to keep certain things for the medium of a podcast because like you kind of have to dedicate some time. And so even on the journey on the podcast, you know, for the 90 minutes that you're with us, like we have that ability to say like, actually we're focusing on gray areas. We're focusing on, you know, like we can be more nuanced. And if you just catch us on social media, you're like, oh, cool podcast, I'm gonna check it out, you know, but we don't like take a super loud stance necessarily, so that hopefully we can be just a step outside of it as someone enters into broader conversations around being adopted, Asian American, Korean American, any of those kinds of things. A man, maybe, I don't know, whatever.
Well, I prefer to hear people speak and have a context and tone as well than just, you know, just a graphic.
Sometimes people use emoji and I don't know what they mean.
Yeah, I know, right? And especially the meanings of emoji seem to be changing all the time. I'm really confused sometimes.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a good point. I didn't think about that, but our social media is kind of just an extension of the podcast, and the podcast is really what we do. Like that's where we do that work. The social media account is really just kind of a place to show people there's an episode out. You can come here. And the after party, I think, like, is another thing. With,
you know, those kinds of things. But like, yeah, we really want it to be like podcast first.
Right. And also like we're like our own individuals outside of that. And I think we each like, not that we operate in the adoptee spaces, like all of us specifically, but, you know, we carry our own brands as what we do for work and whatnot. And like we bring that to the show. I think I've been thinking about this too, because it's something that you said earlier about, I can't even remember if it was like a comment somebody made or whatever it was, but just made me think about how we operate outside of the show, but when we come to the show, I feel like we still operate as ourselves, who we are as individuals, which I think, I don't know, gives us something different. Maybe I'm not sure what I'm trying to say.
That we are different but yet the same.
What the hell was I trying to say? I don't even remember. I'm out here tangent, rambling, all kinds of shit.
We started this show because we were all kind of in different stages of our lives, but still had similarities in the topics that we wanted to discuss and explore. So I think that it makes our show beneficial is because we have different areas of interest. We've talked about that before too, on how we explore our individual stories, and we're doing that. We're still doing that. We're each doing different things and branching off to different areas. So, but yet the show is the glue in a way, the one that holds it together, where we continue to discuss it and come together.
Well, and it's also
Is that
like
what you're saying?
we want to be different people because, like, if we were the same people going on the same journey and just talking about it each week, we would just be clones of each other.
Right.
Think about any of your favorite shows. Every great TV show that has like an ensemble, like that you fall in love with, whatever, like every character goes on their own character journey. And like, like you see other characters interact with that person or whatever, but like we all kind of go on separate journeys. And so it's necessary for us to be different because we want to highlight not just the things that are similar about us, but the things that make us different and how those things inflect and reflect and inform who we are and how we talk about these things, and kind of all that stuff. So I think it's important to continue to be our own persons. Also, I just think that it makes the show more interesting, hopefully. So,
and as I say, the people listening, I mean, they might relate to one of us differently or more similarly, so they. It's good to have that diversity on the show as well. So
so listeners, we're gonna just take a minute.
Put a poll up. No.
We're gonna right now on your screens you'll see 3 numbers, 1, 2, 3. So if you could just hold up a finger and vote for your favorite. Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
All right,
thank you.
The results are in. It's a tie.
Congratulations, number 2. You've won.
But
no, I don't. Yeah, you both said it much better than I was trying to say it. And I think that, I mean, that's what I like about it is that we can bring our own individual opinions to the show. And it's not like when you come here, like you expect to only hear one source of thought, I guess.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I just feel like we have done a decent job of trying to be as, I don't want to say inclusive, but as wide ranging in terms of our storytelling as we can be. Because like you said, it is like it's myth making, it's mythology, like the mythology of the show now. We've been running for long enough to have like a lore and a canon and whatever you want to call it. But
in the beginning.
But it does make it worthwhile to come back every week knowing that we might not always agree on whatever it is we're talking about, or we're going to come and like have somebody share something that's like opens our eyes in a different way. And it's nice to be challenged like that. I think and again, like I talk about this a lot in my individual work, but something the show has taught me is just how big of a privilege it is to be able to hear someone's story, and especially somebody who comes with a wildly different experience than yourself, and challenges the notions of, everything that you thought prior, so you can grow. So yeah,
absolutely. So one of the things that is like similar to this, like we talk about like how when you have that apocalyptic moment and your mythology gets destroyed and you're like scrabbling and doom scrolling and all that kind of stuff. We talked about like a couple of weeks ago, our safe spaces when we were growing up. But I'm curious, what are your safe spaces now? Are they similar? Are they different? What were those safe spaces when you were doom scrolling, trying to figure out your way through 2020 and Asianness and adoption and all that kind of stuff?
This is very interesting. Nathan, do you want to go?
Sure. Yeah. Safe spaces now. I mean, obviously, I have my wife now, and I do feel that the support that I get from her has been great to, discuss topics, explore, just things that are going through my mind. And I know that I can explore those with her in a safe space, and she knows the journey. She's seen it. I mean, just the fact that we've started this, in 2.5 years, she's seen the change from not only when we first met, but to the point where I actually started looking for my biological family, did the birth search, met my biological family. She got to meet them too, and then the relationship that now I've had with my biological family. So she's seen all that change. And then to add to all of that, starting a podcast with you guys, she's seen the exploration, in all the community and, meeting new people and all the work that I'm now trying to branch out and do. So all of that gives her a very good context from my point of view, where I feel very safe to talk to her about those things. And if I don't, then I just come down to my room and build some Lego.
Okay, there you go. Your wife, Lego. I like it.
Lego sets. Guys,
Lego can be a safe space. Building is a safe space.
Is an adjective.
I like it. Yeah. So I was thinking, what was my safe space as a kid? I didn't remember what it was, but I believe it was
Sports.
basketball.
Yeah.
Yes, sports. And I find that very interesting because I do think right now, like going to play basketball is a safe space for me, especially if I have like just a really difficult week. Like I know I can look forward to that and just going out and it feels like I'm in a completely different world almost when I go play. And it's funny because it's safe in a different way. Like before, like it was safe because maybe playing organized sports, I was just enjoying it. But especially as a kid, like going out in my driveway by myself, just doing it right there. Doing it right there. Just doing the basketball right there.
Just balling
out. Basketball.
Yeah. That was safety to me, just being in that moment. But now it's like I play with a bunch of people who 2 years ago were strangers to me. Who 3 years ago I never would have said yes to play, like engaging with them at all because they're all Asian American. And I was just like thinking about how it stayed the same, but it is different. And it's shows like the evolution of like my person from that person who was alone in this moment and
doing
with what he enjoyed to now in community with people he would have never been in community with, but doing that same
basketball thing.
No, just doing it. He was doing it alone in his front yard, but now he's doing it with people.
Doing it with
a bunch of people.
Doing it with people.
Sometimes it's basketball, sometimes it's not.
Professional podcaster people.
Incredible.
That is hilarious.
It's fun. Yeah. Children.
But also, I'd be remiss if I did not say my wife is also a safe space for me as well, to have like a partner or a person. Like I have a best friend who has always been a safe space for me for the most part in almost every way. But my Emily has definitely been that and more. So, yeah.
Yeah, I think for me it's interesting because I said growing up is definitely church, and I have not like heavy trauma, but I think that like as my body, as I like experience churchy things, I'm like working through some like trauma responses. Which side note, I sent you guys a podcast, but one of the things that I like specifically wanted to highlight from that is the trauma is not an event; it's how your body responds to an event that is like overstimulating somehow. It's like too much, too fast, too quick, or that's whatever, too much or too fast or too something else. I don't remember the other thing. And I just thought that was really interesting that like, cause I've never thought about trauma really. I mean, I've heard people talk about it in adoptee spaces, but I don't thought about how it's defined. And I typically think of it as like a singular event that like is traumatic. And then like your body like reacts to that. But actually for your body just to like for trauma to be the response to that event, I think is really interesting. So it's not like, I don't have like massive trauma responses to certain Christian-y things. Sometimes though, I do kind of have like my head will pull up and be like, oh, that feels gross to me, or, whatever. And sometimes I'll be like, oh, I missed this. So it's certainly less the church. But especially as I continue to listen to The Light We Give by Simranjeet Singh and other things, I'm like, oh, people describe themselves as like spiritual and not religious. But like, no, I still kind of miss and still really enjoy religiosity. But I think again, it like goes back to that sense of like, kind of like metaphysical mythology, like the language of that. Like I've always loved Greek mythology and Roman mythology, and so like Christianity and like early, like the parts of Judaism and Christianity that intersect. Like I like that. That's that type of like divine language, and I think that's why I like fantasy genres so much, is because like for a while it felt very in that space. But I miss the like I like the traditions of religion. I think that they're really neat and those kinds of things. So yeah, I guess. But these days, I think a safe space, I don't know that I have defined those or can really identify those, because I'm back where so many of them are or
Sure.
were, I guess, but I've changed since coming back. So I'm like, all of my previous safe spaces feel significantly less safe. And so now I'm like, well, where can I go? How can I do the thing? But I just recently met up with a couple of adoptees. And that was nice. Like one is Jen, who we hang out regularly now. Another one just moved to town, and so like it was interesting, like having someone like, because like we've become very close with the Patels, and so that's nice, and that feels like a safe space to me. But then also another adoptee, I'm like, oh man, I don't know how, like where you're at with the whole adoption thing, the adoptee language. I don't want to assume anything about it, so that was just like, it was interesting navigating that. So yeah, I guess I'm still trying to figure that out. I think things with my wife and I are certainly safe, and I'm happy being able to explore things and feel unsure about things and whatever. And also like safe spaces have changed in really small ways, like even smaller and like more simple ways than you, Patrick, where it's like, I still play basketball, but it's different. But like my comfort
Right.
food went from being like a burger and fries to like bibimbap, like just like a very simple, like, oh, this food gives me comfort and I really
Yeah.
love bibimbap or something like that. And that is comfortable to me, whereas maybe something else is not. So yeah, I don't know. I guess I'm still trying to find them, is what I'm saying.
Sounds like your safe space is baboom bop.
is Bazinga.
Bibimbap.
I could not help myself.
Okay.
I love it. I think yeah. I think it's like I think it was easy for me to define that one because it is like a with my growth, but I think it is difficult to define those things sometimes. So
Yeah.
I think you're good where you're at.
Question
Thanks.
on an additional safe space, if it is or not. Do you find writing music's a safe space?
Oh gosh,
Or-
no.
No.
No. Writing music is more like not to be like grossly metaphorical, but it's just like, it usually is like when whatever I'm feeling becomes too much and it then comes out of me in music and or
So
words.
it's a release.
Yeah. It's more cathartic than like safety.
Right.
So
Is that
yeah.
because you know you're going to release it and other people are going to hear it?
No, it's just
Okay.
I really love music, but I'm too brainy about it sometimes, or too emotional about it. But it's not like, it's not been a place, it's not been like a place of retreat necessarily, and it's not
Okay.
been a place of yeah, I think usually it's people and like groups that do that for me. And so one of the things about being back here is like all the places that used to be safe, like my family, extended family, old friends, whatever. They've either moved away or were, whatever, or I've changed a lot and not like explicitly flagged that change. / I know that how I've changed might like kind of wrinkle some feathers if I were to be too loud or too obnoxious or too whatever. And they're my family and I still love them and I still have fantastic relationships with them. So I have to navigate now, like, okay, so now that we philosophically disagree on some things, how can we also still get along and still be friends? Because we have like a decade of really great history with each other. And I'd like, still want to continue to have a good relationship with you. So it's like, that's one of those weird things of like, you're like less safe than you used to be, but it still gets some of the same comfort, but definitely not as much. So yeah, but it's usually like in like groups of people. Like anytime like the three of us get together, that's like my most safe space actually.
Yeah.
And I think it's because we have been in the rhythm of meeting basically every week. But yeah, so I think like adoptee spaces, but even in that, it's like, oh man, this is still kind of weird and still like different, so yeah.
I hear you on that. Now that I've been back to Colorado, I have a lot of friends from my college days that were in the fraternity with me. And I think back in the day, I was more, I guess, clueless, and I didn't really discuss, adoption. I didn't really talk about any of that type of things. And now when I'm with them, I know that they still, we're still good friends, and everyone is still, has a bond. But at the same time, the topic of adoption or just of race or things like that might not be the thing that I feel comfortable jumping into yet.
Yeah.
With them because I was a much different person 20 some years ago.
Or potentially like even politics, just even in subtle ways. And just like, and like you still want to be friends with them. You still want to have that relationship. But you're just like, So, and it just, in that way, it just becomes just a little bit less safe, where it maybe used to be really nice. So
it was safer because I was clueless, I feel at times.
Yeah.
So,
ignorance is bliss, as they say in the Matrix.
They do say that.
All right. Well, that's
good stuff.
We've hit a lot of topics.
A lot of topics. Those are good. That was good conversation.
It was good conversation. So I'm not ashamed of it.
Thank you to all the new listeners who joined us for this episode and made it through.
Made it through our shenanigans at the top and got to the good parts at the end.
Reach the really heartfelt conversation we just had. Thank you.
We're gonna take a break, and when we come back, we're jumping into definitely a drink this time. I've finally been clued into what we're doing, so here we go.
Definitely a drink this time.
Take a drink. Oh, that was the wrong needle drop. It's fine.
Welcome back to the Janchi Show. Drinky drink time.
Yay.
We got something different because we know it's a drink. We said it was going to be a drink. We are back with a drink. I know we haven't had a drink in a while, so I was excited that I found something different that was a product of Korea and actually sounds really good too. I have no clue what it says on the front, though. I didn't actually translate that yet. So, although I like that it says it's from Jeju.
Jeju. Yeah, the French. You find it in northern France, the city of Jeju.
Jeju. Jeju Sepa. I don't know.
Today we're drinking Jeju Halabong Sparkling. So fun fact, this is one of those weird things. So even though I can read like the Hangul, I still don't know how the language works. So the way it's written would be Han Ra Bong, but the way it's actually pronounced is Halabong. So like Solal is not written that way, but it's pronounced that way. So it's like the same kind of thing where it's like an irregular word. And I'm like, oh, what do you know? So then I put it into Google Translate. That wasn't anything. Then I put it into just Google and I got a Decopon. I don't even know if that's English. Then the about says Decopon is a seedless and sweet variety of Satsuma orange. It's a hybrid between Kiyomi and Ponkan, developed in Japan in 1972. Originally a brand name, Decopon has become a genericized trademark and is used to refer to other brands, all brands of the fruit. So generic name is Shiranui or Shiranui. Thank you, Wikipedia.
Shiranui.
Interesting.
I feel like I read a lot of not English words.
Yeah. I mean, on the English portion on the back says it is a citrus unshu orange flavored drink. So I had to look up unshu, which was a type of citrus. So citrus unshu, type of mandarin, but
I didn't look up anything.
The front of it, the can,
the full front of it,
mandarin, and it looks like the sumo mandarins that the full frontal of this can. Looks like a mandarin. My wife and I really love the sumo mandarin oranges, so I think it's going to be good. And
basically, TLDR, it's a sparkling water that's a citrus flavored.
Cheers.
Cheers. Don't shake it up.
Jang.
Smells very citrusy. Again, like sparkling water.
Ooh, this is delicious.
That is
sweeter pretty good.
than I expected a sparkling drink to be.
Nope, that's good.
Yeah.
That's got the appropriate amount of sugar for me.
Mm-hmm.
A lot.
It is way more intense than like your average LaCroix Waterloo bubbly.
Yeah. There's like
There's
Yeah,
flavor.
this was sparkling water to me is like you get a hint of flavor and it's mostly water
like
and carbonation.
very
This is like
flavor-forward.
all flavor,
Yeah,
minimal
but those are-
carbonation, some water.
Those
Like-
sparkling drinks are also like 10 calories though, or something.
This is basically
This one is
juice.
210
juice.
calories. Yeah. So this
Oh, is it
whole
If we
thing
were at
is-
daycare right now and I asked for a juice, I would accept this.
This is adult Korean juice.
Yeah.
So no, this is tasty.
Oh yeah, 51 grams of carbs,
Oh wow.
Oh, wow.
45 grams total sugars.
45 grams of added sugar.
So yeah,
It is.
Woo.
It is not for anybody.
Not for the children.
Yeah.
I was gonna say though, if you just drop some vodka in this or
Ooh.
Oh,
champagne,
my
Soju.
goodness.
yeah, soju, like it's
get
you
some-
could tell me this is like a mimosa and be like, yeah, that tracks.
Yeah.
We
it's
endorse. Wait,
We'll
do
be
we?
right back.
Drinking responsibly.
Drink responsibly. Miller.
Yes, we need to do some more soju drinks for another episode.
Why don't we just all move to the same city?
All right,
Then we could do all this in person.
come
That
to
would be interesting.
Dallas.
Well,
I
Let's-
yeah,
I
no.
was
Coin
just
flip.
talking today about how the Korean I guess the little Koreatown area over there
Oh,
in
yeah.
Carrollton and south of that is just amazing.
the colony.
I would do
The
that
colony. Yes, it's not a cult. I promise.
totally.
That area was cool.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm jealous of that area compared to
Yeah,
what we
Dallas
have
is
here.
great, except for the fact that it's in Texas. So
True.
True that.
Well, with that being said, how many harabongs will you give this?
Bong.
That same thing that I just said.
this same thing. How many halabongs will you give this decopon?
Decopan. Yeah.
I'm gonna give it. You know what? I'm gonna give it a 4 out of 5. I'm gonna give it 4.5 out of 5.
Oh.
I was thinking about giving it a straight 5, which would have been honestly pretty amazing, given that last week I gave something a 6 out of 5.
Yeah, it's true.
That's
But
true.
I feel like we need to come back down to earth. I do really enjoy it. I don't love the calories. Like it is really sweet.
Yeah, the
And, like,
nutritional makeup
first-
is
Well, like the first
Yeah.
drink, I'm like, yeah, this is great. I don't know if I will feel good if I finish this can. So
I hear that. I hear
I've
that.
just
Yeah.
already finished this.
I still got some
Patrick
here. I'm
is
about to go
already
downstairs and
checking.
eat some food with this.
I'm
I
not
feel
like
it's a good mix.
halfway through. Yeah. So I don't know that I would feel like the most happy, but it is delicious. Absolutely delicious. So 4.5 out of 5 for me.
Nice. Nathan?
That's a good rating. I'm going to agree 4.5. I don't want to give it 5 because it is not a tad sweet, but it is just like it makes me feel like I'm drinking a soda, especially with the amount of calories.
Yes.
However,
Yeah, 100%.
Like a high quality Fanta.
Less carbonated,
Fanta,
though.
Totally, yeah, a little less carbonated, but I'm gonna just double up, and I'd say that this would be great, like you said, with soju. I could throw this on some vanilla ice cream, make like a little soda fizz or
Oh
something.
yeah, like a
Nathan
like
the
a
cook.
orange homemade like ice
Yeah, a
cream
little
float
orange
kind
vanilla,
of thing. Yeah,
creamy
Ooh,
thing.
Yeah.
Oh gosh, yeah.
Wow.
So,
F boy Nate.
That's terrible.
trademark.
Trey,
He wants it.
he's like, I
Chef
want it.
Boyardee. Got it. Look for my
Oh, that's
new
funny.
Instagram account, Chef Boyardee. Nate. It's
Oh,
probably already taken.
wow.
But no, I like it. So yeah, 4.5 for me.
I'm feeling pressured to give it a 4.5, so I'm going to give it a 4.
Don't.
What were you gonna give it earnestly though?
I was going to earnestly give it a 4. For I think all the same reasons. I don't know. I feel like
You just don't enjoy.
I feel like I
quite
want it
as
to
much
be
as we
actually
do.
a little bit more carbonated
Yeah, a
than
little less
less
sweet.
juice because I
Yeah,
feel
I
like
agree.
I feel like I can feel the carbs coming out of the can and going into
Yeah.
me.
Okay.
It feels
yes, that's what I was
thick,
gonna say.
right?
It feels
thick. Yeah,
like my
that's why-
mouth is getting coated.
That's why I'm giving it a 4. Like if
Mm-hmm.
it was a little more carbonated, it'd cut out some of them carbs.
If you swap
But
some
cut the
juice
thickness
for the,
a little bit
for the carbs,
with some
yeah.
fizzness, and maybe that's just the lingering snack from last week. Just I still have some popping happening in the back of my mouth, but yeah, I'm gonna go ahead and give it a 4. Solid drink. A good drink addition
Well,
to our drink
liquid-
roster.
Liquid
Yes.
drink.
Liquid, yeah,
Sure.
liquid.
And I'm glad
Cool.
it didn't explode when I sent it to you. So
I am also glad that it didn't explode.
Truth.
That would have ruined many other snacks. I'm assuming,
And a lot of
Including
other
that one.
hardware.
including that one.
And I said it last time. If any listeners have some ideas and opinions on what you would like us to eat or drink or try, I do have a poll up on Facebook After Party where you can leave some comments and say what you would like us to eat or try. So,
Yes.
more drinks,
Where can they
more
do that at?
food.
Did you say already?
After
The
party
after
on
party?
Facebook, yeah.
Alternatively,
Or you could leave it on Instagram if you wanted to. Just let us know. We love feedback.
yeah.
Where at on Instagram?
On the Janchi Show.
Yeah,
Nice.
just at
All
Janchi Show.
of your places.
You could call to remind us of our appointment if you so choose.
Yes.
Or if you want to give us a topic for discussion that you feel like would be like incendiary because you feel like we don't fight enough on this podcast, you could call and give us that topic at 972-677-8867. You can head to janchishow.com or janchishow.com/support to figure out more about us, more about ways to support the show. Leave a rating or review. Honestly, the best way to support the show is just to tell someone like, "Hey, give this episode a listen. It's a good show." That's the best way. I think that's it for the show. You can find
The email.
me.
Yes.
Oh, the email that's janchishow@justlikmedia.com. Yeah, please write us an email and do that. Oh, if you want to be, I'm just gonna say this. If you want to be a guest on the show, you can go to johnchishow.com/guest. I think to fill out a guest form to do that. I know that like we do have a backlog, but also like who knows
We're
when
getting
people
through
are
it.
listening to this.
Yeah,
we are getting through
We're
it,
going through.
and we don't know when people are going to listen to it. So
If you filled out the form last
johnchishow.com/guest.
year, check your email inbox because you probably have an email from Nathan.
But yes, thank you also to the people who have been supporting us. I know a couple people have been buying us some snacks and stuff. So Hannah, Mrs. Armstrong, Cheryl Armstrong, thank you.
Who is that?
For those?
Oh,
and Alicia
that's my mom.
as well. So yeah, thank you so much for the support on those snacks. So we will put it to good use.
Thanks, Cheryl.
Yes.
I know you're listening.
Thanks.
High five.
Shout out.
Yay. It's a remix.
I don't
I
get
don't
it.
know where that was going.
All right.
It's like, that's the second time
Anyways,
you've done it, but I don't get it. Anyways, you can find me at KJ Roelke, wherever I want to be found. That's KJROELKE, or you can just check it out in the show notes.
You can end Nowak on Instagram and Nathan Nowak on Facebook.
You can end Nowak on Instagram.
I'm the Asian one.
It's the solid.
and you can me at Patrick in the World all over the internet, probably. And yeah. That's it.
Yeah. So thanks for listening to us and hanging out with us. We'll be back next week with another great episode. But until then, Janchi, hail!
Janchi! Game-o! Game-o?
Interesting. It's me.
Somos extremos!
Chef Boyardee.
Chef Boyardee.
Yep.
That's a good frontal.
I'll give you a frontal. Welcome back.
Welcome back to Full Frontals with Nathan Nowak.
Oh, that's deeply
Let's go. That's an end credits tag.
Oh my
Post
God.
credits.
That's
We gotta
Post
redo that
credits
one.
tag.
Oh, that was horrible. I feel dirty.
You should.
Okay, you want to try again?
Please.